Identity theft is nothing new. History is littered with people who proved that if you act like you belong, the world will usually take your word for it. From lost royalty to fake surgeons and a man who nearly sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal, today we're looking at 15 impressive imposters who lied their way into the history books. 1. Gregor MacGregor. In the 1820s, this Scottish soldier convinced the London elite that he was the cacique of Poiás, a lush developed country in Central America. He printed maps, wrote a guidebook, and even created a national currency. Hundreds of investors bought land, and 2 ships full of settlers actually sailed there, only to find a mosquito-infested swamp with no civilization in sight. MacGregor escaped to France and tried to sell the fake country again. It's the ultimate fake it until you make it, except he forgot to actually make the country. 2. Ferdinand Waldo de Mara. Known as the Great Impostor, de Mara's most high-stakes lie happened during the Korean War. Posing as a trauma surgeon on a Canadian destroyer, this American successfully performed several major surgeries by reading a textbook the night before. He didn't lose a single patient. He was only caught when the mother of the real doctor saw a newspaper article about her son's heroism. It turns out confidence and a library card are apparently a viable substitute for 4 years of medical school. 3. Victor Lustig. A master con artist, Lustig is the man who sold the Eiffel Tower. In 1925, he posed as a government official and convinced scrap metal dealers that the tower was too expensive to maintain and was being auctioned off. He collected a massive bribe from a dealer too embarrassed to go to the police. Lustig was so bold that he tried the exact same scam a month later with a different dealer. He also once conned Al Capone, which is a very brave way to try and shorten your life expectancy. 4. Anna Anderson. Following the execution of the Russian Romanov family in 1918, rumors swirled that the youngest daughter, Anastasia, had survived. In 1920, a woman in a Berlin hospital claimed to be the lost princess. Despite the surviving Romanov relatives denouncing her, she maintained the lie for 60 years, gaining a massive following and international fame. DNA testing after her death eventually proved she was actually a Polish factory worker. It was a 6-decade performance that proved people would rather believe a fairy tale than a tragic reality. 5. Sarah Wilson. In 1771, Sarah was a social climber who stole jewelry from Queen Charlotte's apartments in the UK while working as a maid. She was caught and exiled to the American colonies as an indentured servant. Once there, she escaped and started calling herself Princess Susanna Caroline Matilda, the Queen's sister. She traveled the colonies in stolen finery, collecting tribute and promises of royal favors. She was so convincing that the British governor had to take out newspaper ads to warn people she was a common thief. 6. Frank Abagnale Jr. Before he was the subject of a Hollywood movie, Abagnale was a teenager who successfully posed as a Pan Am pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer. He forged over $2 million in checks across 26 countries before he turned 21. His secret wasn't complex technology, it was the fact that in the 1960s, a man in a uniform was rarely asked for ID. He eventually worked for the FBI, helping them understand the mind of a white-collar criminal, and now investigative journalists suggest that many of Abagnale's alleged crimes are either wildly exaggerated or never actually happened. So it seems this great imposter might have pulled off his biggest con by convincing the world he was a much more prolific criminal than he actually was. 7. False Smerdis. In ancient Persia, King Cambyses II secretly killed his brother Smerdis to secure the throne. While the king was away in Egypt, a magus, who was a wise man in Persia's priestly caste system by the name of Gaumata, realized no one knew Smerdis was dead. Since he looked exactly like him, he simply claimed the throne while Cambyses was away and ruled for 7 months. He was only caught because one of his wives noticed the stand-in king was missing his ears, a form of punishment the real Smerdis never suffered. It's a reminder that if you're going to steal a kingdom, if you think there's danger, keep your ears to the ground. Well, if you have them. 8. The Lord Gordon Gordon. This British conman, whose real name was Herbert Hamilton, arrived in the US in 1870, claiming to be a Scottish lord with millions to invest. He managed to swindle railway tycoon Jay Gould out of $1 million in stock. When Gould realized he'd been had, he attempted to kidnap Gordon Gordon from Canada, where Gordon Gordon had fled, nearly starting a war between the US and the British Empire. It's the only time in history a fake accent and a fancy suit almost triggered an international invasion. 9. Arnaud Dutil. In 1548, a French peasant named Martin Guerre abandoned his family. Years later, a man appeared claiming to be Martin. He knew every detail of Martin's life and was accepted by the wife and village for 3 years. The ruse only failed when the real Martin Guerre walked into the courtroom on a wooden leg during the Impostors trial. It remains the ultimate "you had one job" moment for the impostor, who was executed shortly after. 10. Barry Bremen. Known as the great impostor of sports, Bremen didn't want money, he wanted the spotlight. He successfully sneaked onto the court or field during the MLB All-Star Game, the NBA All-Star Game, and even the Emmy Awards. He once stood next to the actual players during the national anthem, wearing a full uniform. He wasn't a master of disguise, he just wore the right jersey and acted like he was supposed to be there. 11. False Dmitri I. In the very early 1600s, after the death of the son of Ivan the Terrible, a monk claimed to be the prince who had escaped an assassination attempt. He gained the support of the Polish king, raised an army, and actually invaded Russia. He was crowned Tsar and ruled for nearly a year before the public realized he didn't follow Russian customs. He was killed, and legend says his ashes were fired from a cannon back toward Poland. That is what you call a very aggressive return-to-sender policy. 12. James Barry. Barry was a highly respected senior inspector general for the British Army and a pioneering surgeon in the 19th century. Only upon Barry's death in 1865 was it discovered that the surgeon was actually a woman named Margaret Ann Bulkley. She had lived as a man for 56 years to pursue a career in medicine that was forbidden to women. It wasn't a scam for greed, it was an imposter act for survival and ambition that actually saved thousands of lives. 13. George Psalmanazar. In 1704, this man arrived in London claiming to be from the island of Formosa, now Taiwan. He invented an entire language, an alphabet, and a religion that involved eating raw meat and sacrificing hearts. He even wrote a best-selling book about it. It turns out that Psalmanazar was actually French and had never left Europe. Yet he was so convincing that Oxford University invited him to teach the Formosan language to future missionaries. It's the 18th century version of teaching a class in Ewokese or Klingon and getting tenure. 14. Christian Gerhartsreiter. For nearly 30 years, this German immigrant lived in the US under various high society aliases, most famously Clark Rockefeller. He convinced everyone he was part of the wealthy Rockefeller dynasty, landing high-paying jobs on Wall Street without any financial background. The lie only unraveled in 2008 during a custody battle, leading to the discovery that he was also wanted for a cold case murder. It's a chilling example of how a pedigree can blind people to what is in fact a rescue dog standing right in front of them. No offense to rescue dogs, by the way. 15. Frederick Bourdin. Known as the Chameleon, Bourdin was an impostor who has assumed at least 500 false identities from 1990 to 2007. His most famous was Nicholas Barclay, a 13-year-old boy who disappeared from Texas. The 23-year-old Frenchman with different colored eyes and a heavy accent managed to convince the boy's family and the FBI that he was the missing child for nearly 4 months. He claimed his appearance had changed due to torture by a secret cult. It's a haunting reminder that sometimes the people we love are so desperate for a miracle that they'll invite a stranger into their home and call him son. The scariest thing about these imposters isn't their ability to lie, it's our own willingness to be fooled. We trust the uniform, the accent, and the family name because we want the world to make sense. But history proves that reality is often just a costume away from a total rewrite. Next time you meet a long-lost prince or a genius surgeon, maybe double-check their ID, or at least check if they have ears. See you next time, assuming I am who I say I am.